Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. Today we're going to talk about yesterday's news. Now, it's not like the old days where yesterday's news meant it was outdated. To the contrary, we have so much that happened in one day, that was reported in one day, that it's like a month, a quarter, or a half a year's worth of major news. So while it is yesterday's news, it's fodder for today's thoughts. Now, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. This is one hell of a news day. My computer is giving me absolute fits, so I'm going to go largely from memory, but I'm going to include the links in the video description so you can look at these stories yourself and decide, is it as bad as John is saying or not? So I want to start with, we're going to go around the world. Shit is hitting the fan right now. Not in the kind of way that gives us the most fear, which is people on the street gunning each other down. Not that kind of shit, it's the fan. But everything that leads up to it. The destruction of our banking system. The political weakness. The social unrest. And the corporate failures. So I want to start with the first article. Hundreds of black vest migrants seize a Paris airport terminal. That's right, Terminal 2 at the Charles de Gaulle Airport was taken over by people who claim to be in the black vest, La Chapelle Debout, right? This organized migrant group took over a terminal in France. In other words, they shut the airport down. And what did they have to say? They were yelling, "France does not belong to the French. Everyone has a right to be here." Number one, there is no understanding of law, property rights, and nation states amongst these people. This is what they think, that France belongs to everybody, that England belongs to everybody, that the United States belongs to everybody. That's their attitude. That's what they're being told. That's what they're being taught. How would you like it if they showed up at your house and said, your house doesn't belong to you, it belongs to everybody. And they walk in and they take what they want and they do what they want. That is what these people are all about. This is a communist, Marxist program that is being unleashed to create social unrest between the people and other people. The government, if it wanted, could go in there right now. And trust me, the French will do this in their territories. If you get between them and their imperialist bone, they will shoot you dead. But in Paris, they're letting them do it because they need the country torn apart at the seams. The globalists want this. They want immigrants there, not just to bring down the average IQ, not just to bring down, right, the educational level, not just to bring down, right, the social system by taxing all the entitlements programs. They want them there to bring the French culture down, to bring the nation to its knees so they can replace what they have with what the globalists want. It is incredible to me. Once again, would you let anyone do this to you in your house? What would you say if it was happening in the United States? I know for a fact that if I am pulled over by the police and they give me instructions, and I fail to follow them, they will arrest me, tase me, beat the shit out of me, and even possibly shoot me. Yet these guys defy the police, defy the government, do what they want, don't follow instructions, break the law. And in many cases, this is a felony, right? If you look at crimes, a lot of times if a crime has a dollar amount greater than, like there's theft, and then there's grand theft. One is theft misdemeanor, one is grand theft, a felony. These people are stopping, disrupting, and costing thousands and thousands of dollars in revenue. Now, the migrants warn, these migrants, the black vest, It won't stop here. In an official statement, how can an unorganized, unofficial body make an official statement? How is that even possible? I mean, have they registered as a private organization? Have they paid their taxes? Do they have their fees? Right? Have they paid and got a permit to have a protest in such a manner? But they have an official statement. The group asked to speak with Prime Minister Edouard Philippe, right, over the country's asylum policy, and the leaders of Air France, who probably have the, shall we say, commercialized rights to Terminal 2 at Charles de Gaulle Airport. That is what we're dealing with here. Now, what's the fallout? Social unrest, economic cost, loss of identity for the nation, and the empowerment of immigrant groups who are legal, illegal, or a combination of the two. But they can just do what? Walk all over everyone else. Massive news not played up by the media. They are not being exposed as the frauds they are, and that these illegals or legal immigrants, I don't care which, should be locked up right away and had charges pressed against them. And this is in France. It's not England or an Anglo country where we have common law rights. French common law is not nearly as protective of the people as English common law, which is what American common law was founded upon, based upon, modeled after, so that the people have rights. The French are a bit different. Still not horrible, they're not the best. In any event, it is nothing but trouble. We will see that type of shit here in America, and it's coming as these Central and South Americans, Middle Easterners, Africans, and Far East Muslims are brought here and they pour across our border. This country is in terrible trouble. Trump is absolutely right in calling this a national security issue because of the willingness of these people to do all manner of illegal crime. And they're supported by NGOs, non-government organizations, which have the money to fund them. And if they go to jail, fine, they don't care. And if they accomplish the mission, they get paid. They're paid criminals. Isn't that in itself a RICO violation? To pay criminals to do your bidding makes you a criminal. If I told people, go break the law, I get in trouble for what? Just for fomenting violence or criminal activity. But to financially sponsor it makes it even worse. Absolutely incredible. Moving along, we go to another article. Xi sends Trump a message. Xi is Xi Jinping, lifetime president of China. He sends a message to Trump. Rare earth export ban is coming. Now, this is in response to Trump saying, well, F you. So China is giving Trump the bird, F you. That's the response. They're calling this in the news article a tit for tat. Well, this is what war is. War is you throw a grenade at me, I launch a bomb at you. You send a platoon at me, I send a battalion at you. Right? It's not just tit for tat. It's tit for damn exploding tat. And this is going to get bigger and worse before it gets better, because it hasn't gotten any better. For months they've talked about this. We're going to have a tariff, but now it's going to be fixed by this trade negotiation, and it hasn't gotten better. In fact, it's just gotten worse. We've actually gone from raising the tariffs from 10% to 25%. What do you think this is going to do to economic activity? Now, rare earth. The United States gets about 80% of its rare earth elements, which are used in technological capacities. Gets about 80% of them from China. My best guess is they come from China because they're cheapest. They can get rare earth elements elsewhere, but that's going to cause price to go up. So Xi is going to hurt us, but not kill us, right? But a trade war like this, a tariff war like this, it is like dying from 1,000 little cuts rather than all in one shot. It's not a nuclear bomb. It's riddling the barracks with bullets and knocking everyone to their ass and putting holes in everyone that way. It's not good any way you look at it. Now, once again, yesterday, announced nice and early during the day, Ford Motor Company comes out and says thousands of workers to be laid off, 7,000 worldwide. And they're saying about a third of those are going to be in the United States of America. They're trying to save $600 or $700 million in labor costs by eliminating this management. Now, it could be mid-level management. It could be mid to upper level management. It doesn't matter. What they're trying to do is save money. This economy is not in a recovery. This economy is in big, big trouble. 7,000 jobs worldwide. Just what, 7 months ago? General Motors, or was it 6 months ago? Half a year ago. General Motors laid off 14,000 workers, closed, was it 6 or 7 manufacturing plants? If you think Ford isn't preemptively coming out and trying to beat the news, right, be ahead of the game. That's how this plays out. They want to be ahead of the game. So check out the article. You can read their reasoning behind it, the CEO that he gives. He makes it sound like, oh yeah, you know, this is what we're doing. We're going to save money. It's all part of the plan. I read the plan, and yeah, it's going to save money. Fine, you want to save money? How come these companies and corporations have to buy back their own stock to keep the value up? And they buy back the stock, keep the value up, and then the CEOs and other execs get the golden parachute treatment and lots of bonuses. You know, I don't think this is a money grab by the CEO. I think this is Ford Motor Company trying to save its ass at a time when auto sales are declining, at a time when there are vacant lots packed with new cars because people can't buy them, at a time when right now, this time, people are not paying their auto loans. They're going into default at a greater and greater rate. Ford has already tried getting rid of most of their automobiles and switching to more of their trucks and narrowing the production line down in efforts to what? Reduce costs, increase the profit. This entire system is coming down right now. Once again, big news, big news, big news. You got social unrest in France. You've got ridiculous threats coming from China, ridiculous and meaningful. You've got Ford Motor Company saying, yeah, we're screwed. We need to save over $500 million, and this is how we're going to do it, right? That's not a sign of a recovering economy. Here's another one. Deutsche Bank, right? Germany's Bank of America, Germany's Goldman Sachs, Germany's JP Morgan is at its all-time low valuation. In other words, its stock is down at 6.4. We were told that if it drops below 8, that Deutsche Bank would be in big trouble, big worries and threats of collapse. They're at 6.4. That is low. Deutsche Bank could fall today, tomorrow, next week. And there's even talk that what? Goldman Sachs should buy it. Why would Goldman Sachs want to buy a crashing, stalling bank that has trillions of dollars in derivatives, and itself, Deutsche Bank, owns debt in France and in in Italy, right? They've made loans to these other countries, and those loans are what? They're out there. It is debt. It is not an asset. Now, they mark it as an asset on their balance sheet, but it is not an asset. We are seeing incredible banking trouble here in an international bank, one of the biggest in Europe, if not the biggest, Deutsche Bank. They're in trouble. They aren't just on the ropes. They've been knocked down, and the count is happening. There is big trouble, and it is staring us in the face. And as preppers, we need to be aware of how precarious the position is that we're in, how dangerous it is to see the automotive sector hurting the way it's been hurting yesterday and 6 months ago, and how the trade imbalance and trade war and tariff and threats and saber rattling economically, how that is hurting everything. You know, we're seeing corporations, major corporations, in big trouble, and major banks. One more to wrap all this up, because it has kind of a twofold touch to it. John Deere makes equipment. They make construction equipment, and they also make farming equipment. They are cutting their production right now on their farming agricultural equipment. Why would they do that? We're supposed to be in the middle of a massive recovery. The reason they're doing it, the reason they're slashing production in a 1980s style farm crisis collapse scenario is because that's what we're going to see this year, according to estimations. With all of the flooding that's gone on, the unseasonably cold weather, the muddy conditions, we are going to see a lot of farm crisis. We're going to have crop failures. We're going to have farm failures. And what happens when a farm fails? Well, they don't recover any crops. They don't harvest, make any money. So they can't pay their loans back to the bank. So then the bank forecloses on the property. And then they tell the farmer, you're now a sharecropper. You go out and do the work and work the land as rent. What the exact terms of their agreements are, I don't know. But we're already going to see lowered food production this year, which is going to mean an increase in cost. Inflation created by this weather and farming crisis. John Deere sees it ahead of time. At least they're smart enough as a corporation to say, we need to cut production because our sales are going to slump next year because of all of the losses. On top of automotive losses, on top of banking losses, on top of trade losses. We're looking at shit hitting the fan right now. On the macro level, the top level, we're seeing this crisis developing. And again, this isn't half a year's news I brought you, or last month's news. This was just announced yesterday. One fucking day, this much bad stuff happening. And to top it off, what happened on Wall Street as a result of all of this bad news? And trust me, there's more. And I didn't see a lot of good news, but there's more than this. I just put 5 articles here because that's enough. I think I've made the case. Right? I've made the case. This happened in one day. The stock market yawned. It was down 150-ish. Then it went up above. It went green. And it went back down about 120 and finished about 80 down is all. After this kind of news from Ford, after this kind of news about Deutsche Bank, the risks, the threats, the danger, the evidence of failure in the system, and we still had a ho-hum yawner of a day on Wall Street. It is evidence that the bullshit that is being sold to the people, it exists. Now, I'm going to put the link up for the Ford story to NBC News. These stories are not being hidden. But for that one, I'll show you NBC News. It's all over the internet, this Ford story. Same with Deutsche Bank. You can go anywhere. Like I said, I go to Zero Hedge because it's a clearinghouse for look at what the hell's really going on. But you can take the same headline, type it into your search engine, and get numerous publications. Mainstream newspapers, mainstream televised media, as well as other alternative and startup internet news stories or news companies. Everyone is carrying these, but they're not making it to the attention of the public. It is back page, backdoor hidden news, and you can get it, but it is not being shouted from the rooftops. They're not using megaphones like all of the black vest idiots in the airport. The press is supposed to keep everyone alert, appraised, right? Warned about what is happening so that people can protect themselves, so that they can advise the government, so that the government itself knows that the people are watching and holding them accountable. But here we are. So what is your solution? What is your remedy? Well, I hope it's what mine is, and that's food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Because shit is hitting the fan. Out there, right now, on the macro. Remember this little term from the George Bush days? Trickle-down economics? That's right, we're going to make the corporations rich and that money's going to trickle down. We're going to have trickle-down shit hits the fan. If shit hits the fan for General Motors, their workers suffer. When it happens to Ford, their workers suffer. When it happens to Deutsche Bank, Other banks, other nations suffer everywhere across the board. I mean, I've heard this months ago that Deutsche Bank is going to be the piece in the EU that fails, along with the Bank of Italy and the Societe Generale, SocGen in France. That's their version of Goldman Sachs. The Bank of Italy, that is their version of JP Morgan. Right? Just like Bank of America isn't owned by the Americans, it's owned by a banking corporation. These are all corporations that have made continuous, horrifyingly bad loans and debts in order to push capital out there, to make loans that are all being defaulted on. Not all of them, but a lot of them, and there's certainly not good loans. Otherwise, Deutsche Bank would say, look at all the money we made with all of these crazy-ass loans and derivative gambling that we've been doing. That's right, the derivative gambling that was taken the world by surprise, by storm, and nearly broke everything. It was just supported with more fake money for the last decade. The chickens are coming home to roost. Get ready. Chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. I'll talk to you guys. I'll talk to you real soon, but wow. This is crazy stuff that's going on, and the only way to save it, even temporarily, is just to lie and play more games with us. But it's going to come down. It's coming down right now. Get ready. Bye-bye.